Hello, hello, and welcome back. I'm so glad you're here. This Mind, Body, Soul Mastery podcast is a place where we explore what it really means to live with intention, to lead from the heart, and walk through life with a deeper connection to mind, body, and soul. Whether I'm sitting down with a guest or just sharing what I'm learning in real time, my hope is that you'll hear something that invites you back to yourself. So take a deep breath and let's drop into today's conversation. And today I have with me Kalen Olson. So, Kalen is a sacred beauty guide, guiding women for the past 7 years to root in their authenticity and bring their heart's greatest desires to life. With a background in teaching, artistic expression, and guiding others toward their inner wisdom, Kalen empowers women to create a life where they feel truly at home within themselves. Kalen joins me today to talk about her journey from hiding to trusting her body's innate wisdom and radiating her fullest potential in this life. Kalen, Kalen, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Brenda. Glad to be here.
It's a pleasure having you. And my listeners know we just dive right in. So we're just going to dive right into that moment, that pivotal moment that shifted something within you to the point that you changed. You took a pivot and you changed. Can you tell us about that moment and what was going on?
Sure. So at the time I was living in Albuquerque, I had accepted an incredible out of college job out right after the recession. And so I was open to not staying in one place with such a volatile economy. And so I was out there by myself, gaining courage and really going for it in life. And I was in my younger 20s. And up to that point, really thinking positively, really going for it had really served me well. And I think it was an important part of my journey to learn how to be courageous. But what started happening was the positivity that I was relying on wasn't really giving me the results that I desired. I noticed that
Mm,
I was coming up for a promotion and that either I could accept that career trajectory of a promotion or I could, culturally speaking, go and get specialized in something and go back to school for
mm,
like a master's degree because I had a bachelor's. And I felt like those were the options that were taught to me about the path in life and what I had been exposed to. And what was interesting about that moment is that I didn't know what felt right to me. And neither one of those routes felt like a yes in my body. I
mm.
was feeling so lost. And so I thought that was really interesting because, culturally, we may be taught that, like, okay, you just go to college or you just go back and get more schooling, and then you just like live your life. And I was so perplexed why that didn't feel right to me. And so simultaneously, I was starting to have like, I noticed a lot of anxious thoughts. And so I started to kind of peel back the layers to wonder, like, is my life causing the anxiety or is it something inside of me where I can look at more? And my mom had lovingly nudged me a meditation book. And I hadn't been ready to go there yet. I was terrified to sit with my thoughts. And even the first time I tried, I was like, oh my God, who is living here? And it was me. I was living there. And that really opened something up in me where I realized that maybe another component of the story is not just trying to be positive all the time. Maybe there's layers in me to explore. And maybe if I sit and explore those layers, I can get that clarity that I'm looking for in my life, not just with career, but relationships.
Mm.
How to feel confident about myself again, not from a place of proving self worth and successful outcomes, but coming from a different place. So that's what really cracked me open. And then I started to explore different meditation techniques and really go down that spiritual path, if you will. I had grown up in the Christian church. And so I was familiar with, Jesus and connecting in that way. But I didn't know how to sit and be with and receive information. I was used to like
Mm,
asking for things like a kid in a candy store and just like, can I have
yes.
this? Can I have this? Can I have this? And forgiveness wasn't a part of my practice at that point. And so it was really humbling myself to saying, I'm open for what I need on this next stage of my journey. Like, please really reveal that to me. And so then the path started opening and the tools started appearing and showing up in my reality.
Mm, mm. I have so many questions. So the first question I'm going to ask, um, your intuition. So your mom handing you a meditation book. Was your mom a little more spiritual and intuitive?
That's interesting you say that. My mom, um, I would say she's artistic, which, some people you could say like that's can be a branch of spirituality, right? And
Yeah.
she really encouraged us to go to church when she was younger, but in the sense of meditation, she hadn't really developed a strong meditation practice, but she was um I think she just I don't know if she had read that book that she gave me. I can't remember, but
I just find it so
she
fascinating.
always just like if I was going through something, like I remember I was using tanning beds in high school and she was like, here's a pamphlet on tanning bed. Like she just always kind of was like, here's a little something that might help you. And she just like always kind of saw that.
Yeah. So what about you growing up in your intuition?
Yeah, I was so intuitive as a child, very open. And, when we talk about like the mind body connection and all of that, like I didn't even have to think positively as a kid because I was so plugged in to
Mm,
like creativity in the creative realms because I was like running outside barefoot. I was climbing apple trees. I was doing rain dances. I was drawing a lot. My dad teaching me to draw. I was putting on plays, singing loudly. So it wasn't something I had to search for. It was just naturally a part of the way I wanted to live and create. And so I think it was great the house I grew up in. It just like really lended itself to that magical environment that I think my whole family felt.
yes. No, well, I think that's beautiful, and I can almost see you. Like, what a beautiful childhood that must have been. That's what. So I'm curious then. So having that, and you just kind of stated and said you're intuitive, you didn't really have to think about things, you just kind of knew. So have you explored the difference between that, what you described, and then you in your 20s using positivity and then realizing I don't know the answer? Have you explored what changed, what happened between the two?
Absolutely. Yeah. I didn't have to be positive because I felt the natural nectar of life sustaining me when I was a kid. And, as I started to get a little bit older and perhaps through puberty, I think it's kind of starts to drip into our reality in different ways of like in middle school, they're talking about got to prepare for high school, got to get the
Yeah, yeah.
grades. Or in high school, it's like take this test to see what you might do in college. And so I think it naturally gets dripped in about time, it's time to shift priorities, perhaps. And I just didn't really have as much time for those other elements in my life. And so it just kind of naturally phased out more, where,
Mm,
it wasn't that I wasn't artistic in my my projects in school, but it wasn't really like at more of the forefront like it was when I was a child. And so to really do well in school, I had to start using that positivity of like, I got to get this done, I got to do this. And so
yeah.
then it started to shift into more of that kind of a realm.
Yeah, so I just love how you explained that, kind of this dripping, but I also was kind of just seeing now all of a sudden you've got more information, more inputs into the mind,
Mm-hmm.
allowing the mind then to maybe even take the lead role.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
So let's just talk about the mind a little bit and about because mind, body, soul. So some of the things that were going through your mind. So you talked about the positivity, you talked about this you did mention this programmed set of things, right? And I do believe that we have been a society that is definitely kind of programmed how we expect it should all go, right? Like you go to
Mm-hmm.
school, you graduate, you go to college, and all that kind of stuff. What other things was your mind kind of ruminating on and loud about?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, for sure, a big story was like not good enough. And that was
Mm,
really like in my relationships, in my dating history, and then also in my career of like needing to catch up to something, especially because what was interesting was, after I graduated college, that was right when the recession hit. And so there was
yeah.
a collective story of like, we got to catch up to something. This is what you've got
Mm,
available. Either take the breadcrumbs and be grateful or don't work. And so it was also that collective story that I kind of latched onto of like, well, I'm just glad, like, yeah, I had to fly to another state for a job, whereas some people who had graduated stayed home and kind of waited in the meantime.
mm,
Neither
mm.
one's wrong, but I think there was an impact there for sure. Um, that may not have been there if I had graduated a few years earlier, a few years
Yeah.
later,
Yeah.
perhaps.
Yeah. So in that moment then of, not feeling what was the right decision, like was the right thing to do, not feeling that the path forward, you were not getting clarity on that. Talk to me about what you were noticing in your body in that time or weren't
Yeah.
noticing.
So I'm like a big researcher. And so it wasn't like I was just journaling about like what do I want to do and be like I was aware of like what I like, what I'm good at, and that sort of thing. Like it was very clear like don't go be a lawyer or a doctor. And I'm a multi-passionate person. So I could have branched out in different directions. But what I noticed was like I wanted to try to create as immersive of an experience as I possibly could to try to really like put myself into the shoes of a possibility. And
Mm,
even when I was researching online, like it's awesome we have the technology age. We can go research the college and like really see the photos of the students learning, like
yeah.
or the people who are doing these certain jobs. And so I could really like think in my mind and try to put myself in the shoes. But what was interesting when I did about that with the mind, I couldn't feel anything in my body of like a yes excitement that I had felt previously. And
Hmm.
so that's what was really interesting is my body wasn't jumping up with those options. And it wasn't fear, it wasn't like take it, do this thing and work through the fear of a new challenge. Like I had done that before. Even just moving to Albuquerque was moving away from my family. Um,
Well,
that
that was
was
a
an
huge shift in and of
huge
itself.
shift.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So that definitely took an element of courage. I had been used to knowing like what's a hell yes, but we also have the component of courage that intuition doesn't always feel soft and light. But I
Right.
didn't even have that like courageous movement forward either present in my body. So I thought that was like
Yeah.
really interesting.
Yeah. So as you talked about, you mentioned the path in life because I wrote it down. When has your body shown you a hell yes on your path?
Yeah. So multiple times when I was faced with that choice, I was like, I just started being like, okay, what then what? And I decided to move back um, to the Portland area. And I decided to just take a pause so that I could learn how to listen. And so I started
Mm,
enrolling in art classes and I just started painting again and drawing and lighting up my creative outlets. And I just started feeling, I was like, I think there's like a healing component here. Like I'm feeling drawn to that path and like artistic expression and like healing modalities. And there was like a light in me that started to slowly glow. So that was like the first hell yes. And then so yeah, I got into that in a unique way with the classroom. And then my dad ended up passing while I was teaching, and he had leukemia. And um, something really broke me open, and it really opened my gifts up. And I I started seeing a teacher to be able to integrate and awaken those gifts. And I learned to like really quiet the mind and
Mm,
to really listen to my body as a vessel about what is my divine direction here. And it was just a hell yes to like really do that with people as I had learned how to do it myself. And it was just like so clear as day. And then I started getting like visions around it. And it was like a fun unfolding of what I had felt like in childhood again.
mm. Oh, that's so beautiful. So beautiful. And so then if we think about your soul during this time, how connected were you with your soul and its guidance?
Mm. Yeah, I would say in Albuquerque, I it was like a small flicker because it was whispering to me. It was like something isn't
Yes.
right here, right? Like I could have just not listened and I could have just gone on the career ladder, if you will.
Yeah.
And I didn't. There was a flicker of something there. And then that grew more as I was studying meditation, getting back into art, and it became a small flame. And then, like I said with my dad, when it really opened up, then it became more of like a bigger presence. And that's when it really started to just feel present and evident in my life.
Yeah. So tell me now how the mind body soul alignment kind of goes in your life. How does it work in your life? How does it show up?
Sure. Yeah. So now the mind, when it has a story, I just know that there's a breakthrough. I know that there's something to heal here, and there's a bigness on the other side for my life that it's a grand adventure. And so I know these looping stories are actually just like telling me something that I'm ready. If we're noticing the looping stories and they're not just in
Mm.
the background as the main play, if we're even aware that there's a story, then that's cause for celebration that like it's really ready to be seen with our awareness to transform.
That is such a powerful statement. I had to write it down. When we're noticing the looping stories, it's on the cusp of.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It's the fertile soil. And so that's really more my relationship with my mind. It's like the everyday voices have gotten quieter. I wouldn't say they're completely dissolved, but they're not like running the show anymore. There's like
Mm.
gas in the car, there's momentum, and there's an engine running. And so that's really like my connection with my body, of more trusting my body and the innate wisdom. And it's not always like, I feel pretty good in my body most days, but it doesn't mean that it's always like soft and that I'm floating on the clouds. Sometimes it's courageousness in my body. Sometimes it's saying yes to the bigness, and that's really uncomfortable in my body. And that neither one is wrong. It's just like these growth expansions and contractions, like I'm giving birth to something new, in
Yeah.
my body. And so that's really more the connection there. And it's like I can tune into what to eat. I can feel like, where is this momentum carrying me? Is it wanting me to go do this thing or do this task? So I don't have to force my body anymore to do things. It's more of like I can feel the pull of the energy guiding me more in my body.
And
Um,
then it becomes your choice to follow or not.
Yeah, right. And now it's like the motor's running so much that it's like the yes is inevitable now. That whereas before it was a dance, if I even listened to it.
Yeah.
Um, and I and my body was giving me different signs before. It was more of an alarm, whereas now it's like the engine's running. Are you going to listen
Mm.
to the engine? So I think
How
our body can have different signs and whisperings that it's telling us.
Yes. Well, it is the body, which I call our intuition, our emotional self, but it also has the physical properties of running us,
Mhm.
this divine intelligence that we are, this system, this whole body system that we are is like it it just puts me in awe. But where I was going was, how long did it take you to cultivate that listening to the body and allowing the intuitiveness and the nudges to be more of the everyday thing? Like, how long did it take you to cultivate that and trust it?
Mm, I would say 4 years.
Yeah. So what came, it's like, it's not easy, is it? That was,
No,
that's what popped in my mind when you said it's not easy, is it?
no. And I got to a point where I was like, well, I really have two options here. I'm gonna live my life no matter what. We all are. You know, when I die,
Mm,
I die. That's out of my control when I die. It really could be in 30 years. So life is happening regardless. So I have a
yeah.
choice. Do I want to open this thing up that's nudging me, or do I want to go back to sleep and just really suffer through and
Mm,
just be hopeful and be try to be positive and just be met with the same bullshit, or my relationships don't feel good. We're living no matter what, either way. And so it
yeah.
was the decision that, like, I can live and I can still have a job, I can still have my relationships, but I can be cultivating this thing over here at the same time, where I am strengthening my intuition. I am working on forgiveness. I am working on resiliency and trusting my gut. It doesn't have to be one or the other. And then
Mm,
that can feed into eventually and be the cup that runneth over to power the rest of my life.
yeah. Yeah. Well, that what you just described to me is feels like very much more of a wholeness kind of perspective and wholeness kind of living, you
Mhm.
know? Yeah.
Yeah, I think sometimes we think like spirituality has to be separate. It's this far off thing, and like we go to a retreat or we go up to the mountains. But it's like in today's day and age, it really gets to be a cohesive model, which I think feels like really exciting.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes. 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 So, would you say so now when life brings you, I'm going to use the word suffering because I do feel that, suffering is a part of life. It happens, right? So when suffering or challenges come to you now that you have this new awareness, you've cultivated this mind, body, soul alignment, how do you call on that strength and that insight, and how does it help you move forward?
sure. Yeah, it's really multifaceted. So, let me see where I want to go first here. So first, I really look and I look backward at my whole life, and I
Mm,
become the witness of my life. And I look back at all of the proof that even when it's been really fucking hard, I have always been taken care of.
mm,
I've never been on the street. I've had very low moments, but I've never gone without. And so no matter what the challenge has been, if I look at the challenge, I've also been supported every single chapter of my whole entire life, no matter how hard it was. And so I look at that evidence and I say, gosh, then I'm really focusing on the tree right now. I'm not focusing on the forest. And
mm.
so if I zoom out of my life right now, and I'm the watcher and I'm the observer of my whole life in this moment of my current circumstances, there's no way that I'm not being supported right now, even though I may not be able to physically see it. So then the invitation becomes, okay, so show me how I am being supported. Please help me see the seen and and feel the unseen ways that I'm being supported right now. And then I start to see the evidence.
Is that a question you ask the universe? You ask your guides?
Yeah,
Ooh, I love it.
yeah. And then I can feel it in my body, and then I can start to see the evidence, because when you're starting to build a life of courage, that's mind body soul alignment, your life starts to look a different way than perhaps even like the predictability you've had before, that life's coming and bringing you things in miraculous ways because you're a whole person, not because you have a ladder for your life, but because you're so big and
Yeah.
multidimensional.
Yeah.
So it's like, of course, it comes in from all these ways.
all over us. And what you said earlier too, so when you're focused on the tree, you can't always see all the things that are coming in
Mhm.
because you're focused on the tree and the bark,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Whereas if you're the broader spectrum, if you're focused on the forest, you might see the little leaf fall down or blow, or the things that blow in, or the things that come in. You have the ability to see that because your vision is expanded. Yeah.
To see all of life.
Yeah. I simply adore this, how you worded it, this witness and proof of being supported. I think that's such a powerful key, especially when someone's sitting in the muck and the mire, or the moment, right? And it reminds me, I talk a lot about this is happening for me versus to me, right? So
Mm.
if it's happening to you, to me, like using your analogy, if it's happening to me, I can only see the tree. If I
Mhm.
realize it's happening for me, I can see the forest and I can look at and go, okay, so this situation really fucking sucks, but there's a message in here for me. And universe, show me what that is. Allow me to feel it, see it, hear it, know it, whatever. Yeah. Ooh, so powerful.
Mm.
So, Kaylin, last question. If there was someone sitting in a situation right now where, they have path before them, options before them, but not knowing which one was right, what advice would you give them?
Yeah, I mean, I would say like listen to your intuition. I think people who are listening to your show, like they have to have some intuition, or they wouldn't be listening. We all just are building the muscle of intuition. That's really
Yeah.
what we're doing, and that's what the bigger levels are about, is building more of that muscle. And so noticing, like, maybe has your intuition been like softer, and you've been expecting it to just be a steady pace of joy always. That was present earlier in my
Mm,
journey when I started awakening
mm,
intuition. It was joyful and light all the time. But then as I got more on my journey, I noticed that my intuition was asking, is now like I'm now in my warrior phase, where now my intuition is actually way more about courage than it was in the
mm,
earlier days. And so really understanding that sometimes have you been avoiding your intuition because you're supposed to be courageous here. And maybe you know what your intuition says, but are you ready to make that courageous step for yourself?
mm,
To really
mm.
ask yourself that, and to say, I get to have both forms of intuition. I get to have the soft, really fun, lighthearted intuition, and I get to have the warrior, courageous intuition as well. And both serve me in my becoming.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I guess I hadn't ever thought about called it light fun intuition, and you called it warrior courage, and I like that. I can't say I've ever labeled them that way or considered them that way, but I like that a lot. Yeah,
Mm.
it's definitely a depth of perspective for me that I will definitely explore.
Mm.
Because I think sometimes, well, I definitely, the light in my journey, there's not been much light play, intuition following that. Mine has always been more, my journey has all been the warrior, the courageous, the leaning into the
Mm.
shadows, all that stuff. So I will have to sit and explore that
Yeah.
lighter part of my intuition that's probably calling me, but I'm focused on the tree of healing and um, evolving, not not so look at these epiphanies that always come when I have these conversations. My journey is more about, evolving my soul here in this human experience. Yet I can I can see the
Mm.
light and have fun. I can enjoy this human experience. 'Cause- Yeah.
I
So
love
thank
that.
you.
Mm.
Thank you. God, man, I love it when the epiphanies come. So thank you so much for this conversation. My intention for this podcast is not to offer hope or inspiration for anyone who's listening, but it's also this quiet invitation to just remember your truth and to trust your path and to awaken the power that's already within you. Even if you feel like all your power's been awakened, there's still a deeper layer. There's still a deeper level. And I believe that we are all on this soul evolution path until we take our last breath. That's what our human experience is all about. And Kalen, today I believe we've we've actually done all of that today, provided some insight and hope and paths forward and in order to deepen. And so thank you for showing up with your openness and your presence here and your story.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Brenda.
Yes. And so, those listening, if this conversation stirred something within you, I invite you to just take a moment to pause and reflect and ask, what in this conversation is stirring me? What was for me? What do I need to look further into? Where do I need to deepen? How can I strengthen whatever is being stirred? And then go journal about it or find that trusted friend, that person that you can share with and process it. You can find all the links to Kalen in the show notes. And until next time, keep leaning into your truth and honoring your journey. This is Brenda Stott Tomlinson of Mind, Body, Soul Mastery.